G'day everyone, it's me, the anti-theocrat, back for another one. It's another one of the lockdown series, so let's have a look what's going on during the lockdown, shall we? This is going to be the more traditional form of going over a couple of different pages to see what feminists are moaning about, it turns out. So, shall we? Not just, I'm guessing feminists, but it could just be women, but I'm guessing that these people all identify as feminists. They're all retarded enough. Okay, from thestar in Canada. Broader gender focus needed for COVID-19 response in Canada, advocates say. Oh yes, why is this a gendered issue? Why is this, right, we've already covered in my series minorities or black people. Why is this now a gendered thing? How many other angles do we have to look at COVID from other than infection rates? What wondrous new thing have you got for us? By the way, advocates say. I'm always impressed when I see the words advocates say. These are generally people with no fucking real qualifications in the world. They've just joined some group to advocate, or, they just knew the right people to become an advocate. Meaningless fucking word. Ottawa, as Canada continues to combat the health and economic impacts of COVID-19, women's rights activists, well, these are the right people to be looking at for any information about anything, right? And it's good to have some balance. It's good to know that when we're talking about the gendered issues, that we always look towards the women's rights advocates for the full picture on what's going on. Say not enough focus has been placed on the unique and disproportionate impact of the pandemic is having on women. Yes, that's right. Apparently, women's rights advocates are advocating for women when they talk about a more gendered view. Nobody's talking about, why can a virus affect men more than women? Like the 2003 SARS outbreak or the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. Death rates among male victims are far higher. Now, there has been a lot of discussion about because man flu, it was a fine insult for a long time, but it turns out that we men actually have a weaker immune system. It's something to do with the way we've evolved or our disposability or something, but apparently, maybe it's because we're not as communal as women are. I don't know why, but for some reason, men have a slightly weaker immune system. So these things affect us more. But no, we've got to look at how this is affecting women. Women and Gender Equality Minister, well, I hope you've got a men and gender equality minister. I really do. Even just boys would be a start, wouldn't it? I know I'm just shitting here, but yeah. Miriam Monsef says Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, soy boy himself, has tasked her department with examining how government spending and policies including COVID-19 efforts affect women and men differently. Well, at least he managed to fit men in the picture, but he asked the Women and Gender Equality Minister to look into it. So I'm guessing he's still just a pratty soy boy, because this wasn't in the agenda at all, was it? Known as gender-biased analysis. Oh yes. Gender-based analysis, sorry. Gender-based analysis. Yeah, it is gender-based. It's based on the gender that is calling itself women. Women. Or GBA+. All right, so what it means when it says that is it also means everyone except men in the LBGT whatever analysis. Following long-standing Liberal government practice. Yes, that's why these people desperately need to be voted out. Desperately. Because they are absolute prats. But a growing chorus of national and international voices focused on gender equality and human rights say more must be done to ensure Canadian women's needs are addressed in government response to this pandemic. So when they're talking about gender equality, and remembering this affects men more than women, so when they're talking about gender equality and human rights, they don't actually mean that at all. What they mean is women's superiority and fuck men's rights. That's entirely what this says. This entire article just says fuck men's rights. Fuck the concern for men who are dying or catching this virus and potentially dying of it more often. What does it actually say? Let's see. The coronavirus that originated in China has spread fear and anxiety around the world. But while the novel virus has largely spared one vulnerable group, children, it appears to pose a particular threat to the middle-aged and older adults, particularly men. This week, the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention published the largest analysis of coronavirus cases to date. Although men and women have been infected in roughly equal numbers, researchers found that the death rate among men was 2.8% compared with 1.7% amongst women. But gender equality and human rights, this is where the important thing is, and the focus is purely on women. Last week, Trudeau, soy boy, did announce $40 million for women's shelters and sexual assault centres across the country. I wonder if Canada's having the same problem we do, that they have to look up the Google searches to find out whether or not there's been an increase. Because apparently the police, ambulance services, and phone call-ins have all had a problem recording anything. The reason we know it's increased in Australia is the Google searches have gone up. Well, I hate to tell you people, but what I do is Google search, and I'm not being violated by anyone. Saying more must be done to ensure... Last week, Trudeau's $40 million to women's shelters and sexual assault centres across the country. Ha, 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 we're better. We gave $150 million. Just to women and children. Yes. Another $157.5 million has been earmarked to ensure homeless shelters remain safe and accessible. Well, I don't think we did that, so credos to that. I mean, the people who are largely represented in homeless shelters are men. So I guess you don't give a fuck when the men are violated, but you want to make sure that they remain homeless, or safely homeless, I guess. Monsef says that this funding came after she voiced concern at the cabinet table about the risks women faced in situations of domestic or family violence now that Canadians were being told to stay home. Yes, because men never faced any domestic violence situations, did they? You ever considered that one of the reasons men go to work is to avoid their wives? Have you? Does the meme of the rolling pin wielding wife or the fry pan wielding wife not predate the internet? Does the nagging wife not predate the internet? Are these not cartoon images from 100 or 200 years ago? Do we think that these things just didn't exist ever? The cartoons were just invented out of the ether. They just appeared in people's minds. There's no way any wife has ever nagged a guy to death. There's no way a household has been so bad that a guy has just walked out and left. Now, I hate to tell you, but I've been in a relationship I walked out of and just left. And I know a guy who ended up in northern Western Australia who walked out of a relationship in England who said, I'm going to get a packet of cigarettes. And he walked out the door and never returned. Ended up working in northwestern Australia. Left his wife and kids behind. Do you think he did that because he was in a loving household? Do you think he did that because he was sick of violating his wife? No, chances are this poor bastard was having a terrible time at home, and one day he just up and walked out. This hit home for us when the PM had to self-isolate. Yeah, fuck that dick. Why didn't he? My team and I got to the... Do you think Justin Trudeau was at home bashing his wife? Is that why this hit home? This hit home because Justin Trudeau ended up at home beating his wife. Is that what you're saying? For the record, I'm not saying that. That's how I read this. This idea that women face domestic issues at home because Justin Trudeau had to isolate himself. He had to go home. For fuck's sake. My team and I got on the phone in the first 48 hours with the stakeholders and said, what do we do? So when Soy Boy went away, you made the most of jumping on the bandwagon. Now, I'd like to point out that nothing here made me think women were having a terrible time. There's no evidence that women are having a terrible time. They threw money at something that they propose was happening. Nobody's actually said this is happening. There's no evidence so far. I've asked them to restrict our machinery so it's better to respond. Right, I'm going to do a quick scan. Evidence of that away. Coronavirus, women are still waiting for more. 70% of health social workers worldwide, according to... Yeah, that's not our fault. Do men get the chance to get into nursing these days? I don't know. Teachers, I wouldn't fucking teach. I actually considered going for a job. I considered retraining as a teacher. But when it came down to it, the risks for male teachers are just too extreme. I'm not going there. Fuck it. My work actually involves being around children, and what I do doesn't put me at a serious risk. But it's fucking enough of a risk, I tell you. It's more than I want to take. I could not imagine being a male teacher in a classroom. G7s. Lots more talk about women needing shit. But I'm not seeing any evidence anywhere of why they propose women need more crap. All I see is men get more affected. So let's move on, shall we? Next exciting claim. The coronavirus is a disaster for feminism. I could hope that it is. I really fucking hope that it is. I hope they all fall on their fucking heads and crack them open and we never hear from them again. Pandemic affects men and women differently. So here we go. Enough already. When people try to be cheerful about social distancing and working from home, noting that William Shakespeare and Isaac Newton did the same for most of their work, while England was ravaged by the plague, there is an obvious response. Neither of them had childcare responsibilities. I'm calling it out now. I'm calling you out now. You are a fucking lazy bitch. I have been an at-home father for going on 23 years. My eldest son has left home. My youngest son started school this year. And just ran into the back of my office. Hang on a tick. There we go. Close that door again. Everyone's just woken up. Righto. Neither of them had childcare responsibilities. Yes, I'm calling you out as a lazy bitch. I really am. Because my mother was an at-home mother, and she ironed and watched daytime television. That was how she got through the days. Now, you've decided that childcare responsibilities are a difficult job. And I have volunteered for about 12 different organisations. I have run 2. I have been on the committee for most of those 12. I have served as a technician and support artist and radio announcer for 4 radio shows, producer for 5. a scriptwriter. I started my own business in entertainment. I did touring. I was able, because of my choice of business and my passion for it, to have my eldest son involved. He worked for the business on tour for the first time at the age of 10, and was paid for what I got him to do, as a pocket money exchange thing. But he was actually asked by one of our clients to do the work. So I did a whole range of things. I've even held part-time jobs and so forth, just to bring in a little bit of extra cash, because it's not easy to be a single income family. And my business, while it's a business, I only worked about 3 months a year. The rest of the year I marketed, I sat at home, I ran not-for-profit organisations, but I could make my year enough income in 3 months to cover my year. So, I did a lot of things. And I raised a son, and I'm raising another one. And I'm still doing these things. I am sitting in a studio recording. Now, I have a lock-in, the same as everyone else has a lock-in. I'm homeschooling. I also have one partner at home. And so when I want to do, and she runs the business these days, so she's got an office here in the house as well, and she works out of that office most of the day. But I can step away from my son long enough to get studio time to come in and record. Now, if you're telling me you can't do this sort of shit because you're too fucking lazy, I don't care, right? I don't give a fuck that you think your kids are a burden on you, because I fucking know they're not. Right? I'm an at-home father. I do not have access to play dates. I do not have access to being invited to other parents, to mothers' homes, other mothers' homes for a coffee. I do not have the luxury of being invited to coffee shops for days out or to the park to play. I'm an outsider. I'm an at-home father. I have never met as many fucking bigots in my life as amongst mothers. Seriously. My job is to parent my children, and it would be nice if I could go to the park and sit with other parents while my children played. But I sit on my own trying to encourage my children to play with children they have no other connection with, because the mothers will not connect with me. It's also where I learned how fucking rude women can be when they will sit in front of you and say to your face, "Go to fucking work, you lazy bastard. You shouldn't be parenting. You should be working and supporting your partner." Feminists are the worst. You don't get to tell me your children are a burden. I found the burden was boredom. And I fucking got up and I did shit. If you think you can't work from home and have kids, there's a problem with you. Now, I could go through this crap about Shakespeare and Newton, but they do not matter. It is not important. What is important is your problem. The history of these people are not related to you. Your life is something very different. So all of that was just crap about them, and I have no fucking interest. Purely as a physical illness, the coronavirus affects women less severely. Oh, wow, we do actually get to recognise that men are more severely affected by this and in greater danger. And, as you will get to, in the workforce, out there working, where the risk of infection is probably more likely. But you don't give a fuck. You've got to look after your kids. And what a burden they are. But in the past few days, the conversation about the pandemic has broadened. Of course it fucking has. You feminists all fucking woke up and started writing again. Yeah, we're in shock for a little while. But we are not just living through a public health crisis, but an economic one. As much of normal life is suspended for 3 months or more, job losses are inevitable. At the same time, school closures and household isolation are moving the work of caring for children from the paid economy, nurses, nurseries, schools, babysitters, to the unpaid one. Right. I am refuting this claim. I do not work in an unpaid economy. I do not work in a wage-paid economy. But who the fuck do you think pays for the roof over my head? Who the fuck do you think pays for all my toys that I get to buy for my children? The toys we get to... I just bought a pottery wheel for the lock-in period, so we had something to do. I bought extra clay. I bought t-shirt printing stuff. I bought moulding clays. I've picked up a new pad for my son so he can do with the online stuff the school has sent us. Who the fuck do you think's paying for all of that? I don't have to go and be a wage slave for that. I'm not going to work for that. I'm not on nobody's paying me by the hour and expect me to meet deadlines or anything. This is just not what's happening in my life. My life is a paid one, paid by somebody else. I am not part of an unpaid economy. I am not part of the wage economy. Very different thing. But I get paid for the work I do. I am given an income by other people who are wage slaves working in the wage economy. This is not a difference between a paid economy and an unpaid economy. This is the difference between a wage economy and being able to lounge around the house or someone else's house having fucking coffee and looking after kids. Don't give me this fucking shit. Oh, I had to scrub the toilet. Well, big fucking deal. When I was in the workforce, I had to stand on top of furnaces. I melted a pair of steel cap boots from under my feet one day, just trying to pull thermocouples out of a bloody furnace to test them. Do you have to do that at home? Did you ever work over molten cyanide vats? It was part of what I had to do with my life. All right? You don't get to bitch and moan that you had to clean a toilet. There are people out there who will pay for your life, who will do the shittiest jobs imaginable so you can clean a fucking toilet. And I tell you now, I clean the toilets in this house. And they're not that fucking hard to work with. The coronavirus smashes up the bargain so that many dual earner couples have made in the developed world. You fucked up the developed world. Right? Dual earner couples fucked up the world. They really did. In my parents' day... I'm going to close this door a bit more. In the past, in my parents' day, a single wage earner, my father was a low-level public servant, worked shifts to bring in extra money, but he was buying a house and supporting a family with children. And in this day and age, we've had a change. Two couples started working. You pushed harder and harder till we needed more women in the workforce. And with more women in the workforce, hey, double the money in the households. Or maybe not quite double. As you will make clear later, women don't work full-time jobs. So what happened is we ended up with a wage and a half, wage and 3/4 in the house. For the last 30 years, economists have said, it's been terrific. We haven't had wage growth. It's been so good. It's kept our economy stable and everything. Well, do you know what that also did? It meant every time there was a rise in prices, every time there was a rise in the economy, they looked at our spare money that you were making, the second wage earner was making. And they went, oh, there's extra money in the houses. We don't have to increase their wages. And what we've ended up, we're now at the point where 2 wages in a household weighs up to about the same as what my father was earning. So if one of you becomes unemployed, you feel the pinch because now you're earning too little to buy a house, like my father was doing on one single low income. Don't give me this fucking shit that you're poor dual earners. You are the problem. You created a situation where where someone like me who's chosen to stay at home as a parent cannot truly afford to do it. I've had to do other things along the way to try and bring an extra quid now and then. And I did start my own business. But you created the dual earners created this problem we have where 2 incomes is now required to survive. We can both work because someone else can look after our children. Right, so you want to ditch your responsibilities. You found that your children are hard work. You want to go out and work for someone else for a wage because apparently you don't get paid for working in the house. It's a fucking free ride being in the house. I'm telling you now, 23 years of doing this. This is a free ride. Someone else pays my rent. Someone else pays for my food. Someone else paid for all the shit I've just bought for this lock-in period. Many stories of arrogance are related to this pandemic. Amongst the most exasperating is the West's failure to learn from history. Look, fuck off. Just fuck off. What this woman is saying is she is lazy, her children are a burden, and I don't need to see all that bit. So I'm going to dive down to here. According to the British government's figures, 40% of unemployed women work part-time. Employed women work part-time, compared to only 13% of men. Do you know how damning this is for you? Do you know how damning this is for your entire argument? Do you understand what these figures mean? It means 40% of women have the choice to be part-time employees, while only 13% of men have that choice. And maybe it's not a choice for a part of that percentage, but it is for both the same. So we'll say 20% of women make the choice to work part-time compared to, 7% of men. You have more choices. You can choose to stay home. You can choose to work. But is your fellow working full-time? Was he given the option to stay home and look after the children? Or were you working part-time? Were you making the choice to not work full-time so that you could be picking up the kiddies from school? So you could have a more relaxed life? So that you didn't have to work all day? Whatever the fuck reason you've chosen to only work part-time, was your partner ever given this choice? Did you say to him, I'm going to take this job full-time, you can work part-time and look after the kids? This is damning. This is you having choices in the workforce. This is men not having choices in the workforce. And you want to moan now that somebody's saying, well, instead of working part-time, you're going to have to take responsibility for your children. Again, you had the choice whether you became a parent or not. These are all your choices you made. Did your partner have these choices? I will give you that he's party to being choosing to be a parent. But have you been working part-time so you can pick up your kids from school? Because you want to have the parenting as well. You just don't want to have it all day. You'd like nanny to take care of the children most of the time. And I'll go out and be in the workforce and work part-time and I'll have my own monies. Because you're being allowed to make these choices because you are being supported by someone else. I got to start my own business because it was supported by someone else. I got to volunteer myself in the community massively because my efforts were supported by someone else. I bought a fucking cinema supported by somebody else. When that closed, I went to running a radio station supported by someone else. All volunteer work. And this particular disruption. Oh, hang on, we'll go back. In heterosexual relationships, women are more likely to be the lower earners, which is why you've made. It's again you making those choices, isn't it? Because in my relationship, my partner earns more than I have ever earned, and she wants to be in the workforce. So I chose many years ago to be the at-home parent, meaning their jobs are considered a lower priority when disruptions come along. Well, they are the lower priority. They are the lower priority in your own fucking family, or you would be working part-time and he would be working. You'd be working full-time, he'd be working part-time. Sorry. And this particular disruption could last months rather than weeks. Some women's lifetime earnings will never recover. With the schools closed, many fathers will undoubtedly step up. But that won't be universal. Well, you don't fucking know, do you? You don't know. You've got no quantities of men who won't step up. Right now, my wife is feeding our son because they've just got out of bed. And I am not having to do that. But I will take over when I finish doing this recording, and then I will be the parent for the rest of the day. Are you saying that, there's some universal, my wife won't get out of bed and feed our son if I'm, can you give me a figure on how many women won't be supporting their husbands, their at-home husbands? No, you're just fucking throwing this in the wind, and we're meant to take it as read, This is the truth of everything. Despite the mass entry of women into the workforce in the 20th century, fucking up our economies, the phenomenon is the second shift still exists. Yes, because you choose it. I am the example that shows what can be done. Are you willing to let your husband be the at-home parent? Are you willing to let him pick up the kids from school? Are you willing to let him not earn a fucking cent? Or work part-time and earn a portion of what you earn? Are you willing to let him do that? Because I'm putting this on your shoulders. I know there are a lot of men who prefer to be working. They prefer to support their families. I was that person too. Until it turned out that what was better for my family was this. And I get the luxury of someone else paying for my lifestyle. It turns out this was a bloody great move. I recommend it to everyone. I recommend being at home parent to fucking everyone. Start your own business. Do something, hobby business at home. I mean, I took mine quite seriously years back. At the moment, it's slowed and I'm not doing a great deal, but I work my ass off for my business. I work my ass off for all the community organisations I work for. And it is far more fun than being tied to a fucking job. Including with the jobs. Do more housework and have less leisure time than their male partners. Bullshit. Absolute fucking bullshit. I have been an at-home father 23 years. If you think cleaning a house is hard compared to being in the workforce, you are fucking wrong. Sorry about that. You are fucking wrong. But it's more than that. If you think that your male partners are getting leisure time because they come home from work exhausted and they decide they want to sit down and put their feet up, or they'd like to play golf on the weekend, but you don't have any leisure time while you're off for coffee dates with other mothers, or sitting around the house vacuuming or something, and that these can't be, or watching fucking daytime television, whatever in the fuck it is that you're doing that's so fucking stressful. Shut the fuck up. I'm not afraid of COVID-19. No, nobody who writes these articles is afraid of COVID-19. I hate to tell you, but I'm male. I am fucking scared of COVID-19. I'm also not a young father. I don't need COVID-19. You can be unafraid of it if you fucking like. I don't have that luxury. Because it turns out, you can't have your part-time job. I don't have your part-time fucking job and I'm still a high-risk group. You're just a woman who might get sick. What is scary is the lack of common sense people have. Yeah, you don't have any fucking common sense. Reads one of the most popular tweets about the coronavirus. I'm scared for people who actually need to go to the store and feed their families, says Susan Karen, locked up for 30 years. What? Stocked up for 30 years? What? The joke only works when Susan and Karen stand in names of suburban mums understand. Fuck off. Just fuck off, you dumb bint. I keep my house stocked with enough food to get us through 4 weeks. No problem. No problem. I keep a full pantry. I like to cook. I like to bake. I have... I live in an odd climate, so my flour is in the freezer. But I have a freezer loaded with flour. We've been making... I have an Asian wife. She's been making Asian buns at the moment. I made cake and all sorts of things, you know. I mean, I've got a Bicky book. My son and myself are working way through the Bicky book slowly. Doing Bicky recipes. So, you know, what is this to do with bloody... why are Karen and fucking Susan bitching and moaning that you've been going to work, you've been doing fuck all, and you haven't stocked your house? Who's to blame for that? Now that you've got to do it, you've got to take responsibility for your house. You find it fucking hard work. I'm angry about this. Now I move on. Fuck that dumb bitch. Everyone is home right now, but who's doing all the homework? Oh, another fucking dumb bitch. Hello, Eve. You're a dumb bitch. Imagine a giant social experiment where all the undervalued and underpaid women required to get through your day went missing. Teachers, housekeepers, babysitters, grandmothers, nannies, home care aides, you name it. And you and your partner are left to figure it out. Except that experiment is reality now. You know? I don't find that such a terrible thing to imagine. Oh, what? I'm an at-home parent. This is my reality. I don't need a babysitter, and I don't fucking have the money for a housekeeper. And the teachers are at school. They're just sending us the schoolwork for home. So it's like doing homework, isn't it? But for more hours of the day. Nannies. I can't afford a fucking nanny. Right, you dumb cow. You're talking about how is this not upper class fucking woes? Upper class, well-to-do women and their fucking woes. I can't afford a housekeeper. I can't afford babysitters. I can't afford nannies. I don't have home care aides. I don't have any of this. I can't afford any of this. I do not need any of this because I've been an at-home parent for 23 years. You and your fucking upper class, upper and middle class fucking first world problems. Get fucked. I sent that last week to my friend Darcy, name dropping, author of Name Dropping, who required you should claim, send that crap to your girlfriends because it'll make them, look. Oh, woe is us, our first world problems. Within hours of New York issuing a stay-at-home order, I began receiving texts from women across the country who are going into planning mode. Fucking hell. Fucking hell. None of this is... Thoughtful questions and advance. Why are they calling you? Who the fuck are you? Why do you know which are the best sites cater to? Have you... why the fuck are they asking you this shit? Who the fuck are you? Why wouldn't they go to the supermarket and ask the supermarket if they expect any hand sanitizer or if they have any options for you? Go to the fucking bottle shop and buy a bottle of whatever's your favourite toxin and pour it in a bottle and spray it on your hands every now and then. Who fucking cares, right? Whatever it takes. Why the fuck are they asking you these stupid questions? Do you know stupid people? Thoughtful questions and advice. No. You know, when all this rush buying went up, my wife was working front counter at a accommodation place, and she was worried that she might need some sanitizer. I went up the shop and all the hand sanitizer was gone. And for about 3 days, Dettol just sat on the shelf. Dettol, tea tree oil, eucalyptus oil, they all disappeared after about 3 days. Someone decided that if they needed them, they'd get those. Well, guess what? I'd already bought a bottle of each and had them at home. And now we don't fucking need them. But we use those things regularly anyway, so that's not a problem. The only thing I don't use regularly is Dettol. I've got a bottle of Dettol in the house. But, yeah. What's a big deal? What's wrong with these women? What's wrong with the people who call you a columnist for Bizarre magazine? What the fuck, stupid people, do you know? Women have been an outsized proportion of the domestic workload for a long time. See, this is another one of these women who thinks that, you know, this is hard work. Domestic work is hard work. Do you know how many guys expect the house to be fucking spotless? Do you know how many guys would put up with a house like the one I live in, which is a working place? I mean, we have 2 offices in this house. This is our work site. This is not a home, beautiful home. Do you know how many women do not keep home, beautiful homes? Cat. There's a cat locked in my office. Hang on. I'm going to get one of those mornings, aren't I? But I'm not going to stop for this one. Normally I would stop and start again with all the disruptions, but the cat's out now. Let's get on with it. Yeah. You think your children are a burden. You think that you work hard when you work around the house. Just, none of this is true. None of this is fucking true. Maybe you have a Home Beautiful magazine bloody house. But I bet your husband doesn't need it that way. I bet your husband would be just as happy if he could sit on the couch without being covered in a great big plastic bag. I bet your husband would be happy if you gave him a fucking beanbag in front of the TV to sit in. But you make this all about how fucking hard your life is because you've set your standards, your goals, as what must be achieved. I received more than 100 responses, but it's because you fucking emailed everyone with your stupid thing, didn't you? Maybe it's less about stupid women and more about stupid you. I purposely focused on a kind of cognitive labour. Cognitive? What? I purposely focused on cognitive labour. Oh, get fucked. Because my research for my book Fair Play, women reported that mental fucking load. I am an at-home fucking parent. There is no mental load working in a fucking house. I worked as a service technician. I was on the road in a car all the time. City traffic was an issue. Electricity in the workplaces I was working was an issue. Sometimes I would find myself working on something like I've mentioned cyanide vats. A lock factory that used cyanide as part of its process had 2 vats, one at 600 degrees, one at 800 degrees. I would have to push a thermocouple down into molten cyanide in order to make sure that the temperature readings from the probe that was in the vat were correct. When you push a cold thermocouple into a vat of cyanide, if it does not warm up enough, the cyanide will spit. Now, I could only wear the minimum safety protective gear because I had to be in contact with the materials I was having. If I had dropped, it took 15 bloody minutes to get that thermocouple into the depth required. For 15 minutes, I had no choice but to hold that thermocouple and slowly insert it into the cyanide. If I released it, if I let it go, if I tried to pull it out rapidly, any of those things could have killed me. That's not even when I was working in electrical panels, or when a plastics extruder was pressing out $40,000 of plastic a minute, and I had to keep the process running while working on one of its temperature zones. If the temperature had dropped, I could have blown up the whole bloody machine with the screw seizing up. If it had increased too much, I could have seized it up as well. Or I could have just burnt the product and fucked up the run. Do you understand the difference between having to worry about getting the kids' lunch ready and getting them to school, and working with anything in the fucking world that's not a fucking toilet you've got to brush down? Don't give me this fucking cognitive labour shit. This is the easiest job I've ever had. I love this job. Parenting is a ball. 9 ways here. I just don't give enough of a fuck. Believe all time is created equal. Do you believe an hour holding your children's hand in a paediatrician's office is just as valuable to society as an hour in the boardroom? I believe that your husband's hour in the boardroom getting paid so that you can be in the paediatrician's office is worth... Yes, I do believe that your hour may even be worth his time doing that. So you understand, this is the problem, isn't it? You think that because you're the one who takes a child to the paediatrician's office, that you're not valued. I'm sorry, but if I was in the workforce and nobody was there to hold my child's hand at the paediatrician, I would be upset. I would find that distressing. I value your ability to do that. Now, why you don't value being with your child in the paediatrician's office, while somebody else pays for you to be there? Don't you value his work? He's working so that you can afford to be in that paediatrician's office, so that you don't have to be in the workforce. Do you understand your fucking privilege? Somebody else is off working somewhere else to make the money so you can spend your time with your child. When you divorce him, because he's always at work, he'll get less of his child's time. I am an at-home father. I fucking love the time I spend with my kids. I adore my kids. I love my family. Now, if I was working in a boardroom, I wouldn't be seeing them as much. But you get to spend your days with them. You get to go to the paediatrician's office with them, while somebody else provides you that luxury. Well, women are as much as 10 times more likely than men to miss work to care for sick children. Is that not the choice you've made? In the last article, we learned that 40% of women work part-time and only 13% of men. So is this not a choice you've made, to be the person who is on call for your children? Did you say to your husband, you stay at home and look after the kids? My wife and I made that choice. Admittedly, my wife's not a child person. And so it was decided early on that I had the knack with kids and the patience. And that's the main reason I'm at home. Why I'm not in the workforce is because I had the patience for it. I had also spent my time in the workforce in my trade, and my wife was still breaking into hers. So she wanted to go ahead and do more with what she'd done, getting through university. She wanted to go on with that. I, on the other hand, was prepared to take a break, to get the fuck out of industry. Did you ever allow your husband that choice? Or does he have to sit in the boardroom while you get to be the one who spends your time with your children in a pediatrician's office while they tell you there could be something wrong with your child and your husband knows nothing about it? Maybe you're there because you have an ill child and your husband has to sit in a boardroom worrying. That's his only access, is sitting in an office with other people trying to do business with a worry in the back of his head. And earlier on you got the gall to tell me about your fucking mental stress. I don't want to carry on with this article. I don't want to carry on with these fucking spoiled first world fucking stupid women. I brought this up as part of what was going on with the other things, and apparently there was a study, this is from 2016, that showed that retirement may be the kiss of death. Part of this was because these women, they moan that they have to be at home, that they have to look after the kiddies. I've known for a long time, and I do not remember where this information came from. It was a very long time ago. But I've known for a long time that men generally die between 1 and 3 years after retiring. It's like they've worked hard all their lives, and once they retire, they've got nothing to do. The boredom of retirement kills them. And I've got to say that this article about this study more or less says that that's true, because whether, right down here, during the study period, about 12% of healthy and 25.6% of unhealthy retirees died, according to the study. Now, this is largely about people who retire early. Apparently, people who work till their retirement age live longer. People who, where was this? 11% of lower mortality, while unhealthy retirees worked year longer, were 9% lower mortality. So the having work in your life can actually be good for you. It gives you something to do, some drive. And maybe if you don't, you never learn that habit. Right? I'm quite happy. I have made my life without work. When my retirement age comes around, nothing's going to change for me. Now, an at-home mother who's sat at home raising children, when her children leave home, there'll be a change. Maybe she falls into this category of people who will die sooner because she's lost her workload. But my workload is different because I made my own workload. I have a shed, I'm building a bus out as a motorhome, I'm doing a range of things which I will continue to do till the day I drop dead. A job can help you survive, but it only helps you survive as long as you've got the job. It's a part of the stress thing. It's a part of this drive and what have you. And these women, they want to put themselves in the workforce. They want to be part of this world. She doesn't want to be at the pediatrician's office with her kids. She wants to be in the boardroom. I'm not sure exactly why I brought this up. One of these articles really focused on this need to work thing, and I just but it's a sad fact that men work themselves to death, and that the only thing keeping them alive is the work sometimes. But not having it means that their life changes so drastically that it kills them. I don't know how to express this better. It's just something I've known for so damn long, that we men tend to drop dead after long careers. And these bitches think that working at home, being at the paediatrician's office with their kids, is anything like being in the workforce, working full-time, supporting families. Being in the workforce part-time is anything like working full-time and having a career. And they just want to moan about their little first world problems. I've got nothing more to say. I'm really pissed off at this shit. See, I get into discussions with feminists online, and they say, but men this, men that. And I say, I'm an at-home father. I've been an at-home father for 23 years. You know how fast they stop talking to me? Do you know how fast that can shut them down? Because apparently, when I can turn around and say, parenting is the best job ever. Parenting has allowed me to start my own business, to volunteer in my community, to run a cinema, to do numerous things, to just absolutely enjoy my life, to stop being a wage slave, to stop doing the horrid things I used to. I actually loved my job, so I can say I did horrible things, but I actually adored the danger and the thrill of my job every day. I was working in a hull of a ship, or hanging off the top of a fuel storage, those massive, great storage things down in the harbours for storing petrol as it comes in. I used to hang off the side of those to clean the gas detectors, as part of sorting out the gas detection systems. I loved the danger of my work. It gave me a thrill. But I far prefer this. And when you tell them that, it shuts down feminists faster than anything else I've ever come across in my life. I am what they moan about. And I've got nothing to fucking moan about at all. Alright, that's it. I'm going to get out. I've had enough of this shit. I've been the anti-theocrat. May your gods remain fictional, and I will see you in the next one.